you've all had a fantastic day. I've sort of sat in on some of the afternoon sessions, and it's been really interesting, and there's a really lovely buzz in the room which suggests that you've all been enjoying it as well. My name is Gwenllian Price. I'm an Employability Adviser here at the university. I know that if you're a current student, you'll already have met me previously in sessions, and there's a lot of familiar faces in the room, so nice to see you again, or nice to meet you if it's the first time. So I work as an Employability Adviser in the Careers and Employability Service. And my role is to support really our students and our graduates to make the right career choices and to feel equipped really in terms of taking the next steps. So if you're a recent graduate in the last 3 years, you are eligible for all of our services just as you would be when you're a student. So one-to-one career guidance, access to our sessions and so on. If you're a graduate of longer than 3 years, we don't have quite that service level, but we do give you access to online resources and so on. So please do come and ask me at the end if you want to know more about that. Pardon? Oh, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So for the final session today, I want to give you a space to reflect a little bit and to really think about your experience and perhaps things that you've learned today, or where you can take things from here, really. You know, what can you do with the information that you've either learned today or through your course, or through your whole career, for those of you who are already, already practicing and highly experienced therapists. I think career planning certainly isn't something that you do once in your life and then that's it. It's something that you always adapt, always review, reflect and sort of refresh really. So I'm hoping that no matter what stage in your career that you're at, that you'll get something and that you'll take some positive takeaways from my session this afternoon. So to start with then, when we think of the word career, it has all sorts of connotations for people. Some positive, some negative, some that are just completely ingrained in our language when we talk about it. So there are so many metaphors that are associated with the word career. And I'm wondering if any of you have any ideas about what some of those are. When you talk about the career, what kinds of things do you refer to that might be classed as a metaphor? Any ideas? Like a roller coaster. Thank you, I like that one. A journey, that's a really common one. Yeah, your career journey. Tree. Oh, a tree. Okay, brilliant. Was it you? Tell me a bit more. A tree. Tell me a bit more about what you mean by comparing a career to a tree. Yeah. We come to understand where is our root and what we have. And then the tree has different branches. So in different stages of our career, we might discover a new branch too. Excellent. I love it. I love it. That's it. That's not one I get very often. That's very good. Thank you. There was one you were going to say there as well. What were you going? A commitment. Okay, so the commitment around what sort of, so that's about the commitment that you put into your career. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah. Steers? Oh, stairs, yes, sorry. Sorry. Yes, so with the idea that you're climbing up the stairs. Yeah? Falling off the edge. There's another really common one that is used that's similar to stairs. We often hear the word career ladder, okay, climbing the ladder, okay, climbing up the ladder. Anything else anyone can think of? Yeah. Portfolio careers, yes, so that you don't have to have this linear, that you can do multiple things, multi-skilled, certainly, yeah. Okay, I've got some other sort of suggestions or things that I commonly hear when people talk about career metaphors. So like sort of often students feel like they're at the start of something or looking out at something big that's ahead of them, or they might think of it sort of you need like a light bulb moment or sort of some specific spark. Some people find it like loads of directions and they're not quite sure which direction to go in. Career ladder or a compass, again, playing on that direction thing. Some people find it extremely confusing and overwhelming, so that one's similar to your roller coaster version one perhaps, like there's all sorts of different things you can do. Some people see it as a very clear path ahead, but maybe with a few bumps along the way. So there's all sorts of different ways. So it's interesting for you to just reflect and think, well, are there any metaphors that you use that you don't even realise that you're using? Again, going back to the tree one, I did have the sort of the bloom here as well, like a seed sort of growing into something. So there are so many, and it's really interesting to see how some of these metaphors just get dropped into career conversations without us actually realising. So have a think about which ones you use and how that might influence or affect the way that you think about your career. So when it comes to career planning, it would be strange to not mention work that was done by Bill Law. Bill Law is a hugely influential sort of academic name in the career guidance, research and academic research that's gone into it. And he created what's referred to as the DOTS model. He started working on this back in the 70s and has published frequently on this sort of well into the late 90s with sort of further developments of it. Anything you look up online about career development plans or career development sort of structures or anything like that ultimately always come back to the DOTS model. Okay, so they're all based in some way coming back to this DOTS model. So it's based on the idea that in order to develop your career, you need to understand and develop your self-awareness. Okay, you need to explore and research the opportunities that are available to you. You then need to assess, what you've learned through that self-awareness and exploring opportunities, and make decisions about what it is that's right for you and why those are the right things for you. And then you actually have to do it. You have to transition your learning and actually take action. Very frustratingly, it's not, the DOTS doesn't quite work out in the order of the steps, but it's called the DOTS model. So on a practical level for you, what this means, things that you should be doing and thinking about when it comes to your career planning, is to consider where you are now. So reflection is a hugely important step in career planning. Before you start looking outwards, you need to look in. You want to decide where you want to be, start sort of, imagining or visioning what kinds of things you actually want. Make a plan on how to get there, okay, so identify the routes. Take action, okay, so that you're always doing something, no matter how small, so that you're working towards achieving those goals. And then regularly reviewing your progress as well. Okay, this is something that happens naturally within lots of jobs, within most employment at least. You will be doing things like annual reviews, personal development reviews and so on, where you're sort of enforced really to reflect and think about your progress and think about where you want your career to go. So if you go down an employment route in your career, you may find that you'll be doing this anyway, on an annual basis. So what I want to do sort of in the session today really is to give you a bit more detail about some of these and give you some tips around how you can practically do that. So if we start by thinking about self-awareness, okay, so I'm aware that I'm speaking to a room of people who are probably highly self-aware. It comes with the course of the profession that you've chosen to follow. It comes with the personality type or the skills and attributes that you're likely to have strengths in, that you're quite reflective people. These are some of the sort of the different things that I always ask, students and graduates to reflect on and to think about when they're looking at self-awareness, okay? Because sometimes they don't quite know where to start. So first of all, you want to think about your skills and your abilities. What can you do? What can you do well? But also, what are you not as good at? What don't you really enjoy, or what don't you thrive at really? What doesn't suit you? Sometimes that's more powerful to understand about your career, to understand what you're not skilled at as opposed to what you are, because it can help steer you towards those areas where you're going to thrive. You also want to think about your goals and your priorities. Okay, so thinking about your life in general, do you have a specific location in the world that you want to live in, or do you Do you have sort of fixed ideals about what you want your life to look like in the future? Sometimes this can mean looking back at sort of some of the things that have been instilled in you from when you sort of were a child, what your family is like, how important your family's influence on you. There's all sorts of things that can factor into some of these things that you make as assumptions for your life. It can also factor in very practical things as well. So, for example, if you have children, it may be a priority that whatever you do as a career has to fit around that or existing, and whatever circumstances that you have in your personal life. You also want to think about your values and your beliefs, and I'm sure through your work, as therapists, that you've had time to reflect and think about your values and perhaps work on that with your clients as well. So it's really important to recognise what these values are for you and ensuring that any work environment that you're putting yourself forward towards are going to be work environments where those values will be respected and where you can sort of, feel authentic, that you're working authentically to those values, really. You also want to think about your qualifications and your training. So this is on a very practical level. There are certain jobs out there that you need to have specific qualification or accreditation in order to do it. So you're all, either on a course or already qualified as therapists. So this is something that you're already very sort of aware of in your practice, I'm sure, and that you're conscious of. If you're not already registered with BACP, you know what it is that you need to do in order to get there, okay? Or if you wanted to go down a different route, that you think about, well, are there any sort of specific qualification or training barriers or, hoops I need to get through in order to do that role? It might be that you've got an idea about a niche area of counselling or something that you want to, train more in, and that you're identifying relevant courses and accreditations that you can do. You also want to think about your personality. So we can't really change our personality, although that might change over the course of time, but we can't just choose to change it overnight. So it's really important to acknowledge and respect what sort of personality you have at the moment and why that might be better suited to certain work environments, certain demographic of client, or certain work patterns. There are all sorts of things that can influence, but also to acknowledge that can change over time as well. And then finally, to think about your interests and motivations. What do you enjoy? What makes you feel when you wake up in the morning? What makes you feel, oh my God, I've got to go do that thing today. Okay, let's just get it done. Or what makes you feel, oh, do you know what? I've had a really good day today. Try to identify what happens on your good and your bad days and think, well, how can I identify a job or workplaces or scenarios that will enable me to have more of the good days and less of the bad. We're never going to have it the perfect, every day is going to be a good day, but try to think about, what are the specific things that you do that you really feel like you're getting that buzz from it. And just think about really, how can these factors influence your career decisions? How many of you were asked that question when you were a child? Yeah. How many of you asked that question to a child? Okay. Even telling you what I'm just about to tell you, I've already asked that question to my daughter without even thinking. It's just a question that's sort of ingrained in our culture, in our society almost. It's just something you ask children. What do you want to be when you grow up? Can I have some examples of if you were, when you were under 10 years old, what would you have said as an answer to that question? Yeah. Footballer, very popular answer, yeah. Anything else? Astronaut, okay, brilliant, I love that. Wish you had, never too late. It's a career planning session. Yeah. Pardon? A doctor. Okay, so we've got 3 examples there. Footballer, an astronaut, and a doctor. What is common between those 3 things? What are they? Pardon? They're highly ambitious, but if we strip it back even more, what are those 3 things? Vocations, they're jobs, okay? Look at the language in that question, look at the words. Does it mention job anywhere? Absolutely nowhere does it mention job, but we all assume, myself included, that question means what job do you want to do? Now then, if we think about completely reframing that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And sometimes someone does give me an answer that meets this, which sort of ruins my point no one has today. If you reframe it, how about what do you want to be? Okay, what do you want your life to look like, or what do you want sort of as something that's important to you? So this is a really good way of identifying some of those values and those beliefs that you have. Okay, so you may want to be an expert in your field. You may want to go down an academic route and publish. You may want to have a good work-life balance. Work isn't the most important thing in your life, and you're happy, you want to have that balance. You might want to travel, or you might want to earn loads of money. It's absolutely fine, whatever these things are, but it's really important that you do identify them. Okay, and it's good if you're at the start of your career or at a point of change in your life. It's really good to reflect on these things and reframe that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Because ultimately, we all just want to be happy, don't we? Not to go all cheesy on you, but we all just want to be happy. But different people's happiness is we all have a different definition of what happiness is. To some people, being rich is happy. To others, it will be having a job where they can live in the area that they grew up in. We're all, and the combination of lots of things as well comes into it. So you will get a copy of these slides. So I'd like to share with you just some prompts really for reflection to help you as well. I'm not going to talk through each of those, but just some prompts to help you with reflection and to encourage you to keep reflecting, keep logging and journaling even when you don't have to, for a course or for a job, because there's a lot of value in that. So the next sort of step on that DOTS model, that career planning model, is to look at sort of exploring options and researching. So you've looked inward, you've thought about what you want and what your, qualities are. You now need to look outward and see, well, where can I use, how can I apply these skills and this learning and so on. So networking is so important, and you've all been networking today, so that's a fantastic opportunity that you've had in an event like this, and hopefully you've all made the most of that opportunity. So really think about who can help you, who can you learn from, and I highly recommend LinkedIn as well. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think it's an extremely powerful tool, and there's a lot of scope there. Even if you're not directly contacting people and messaging them, you can just learn from observing and following groups and following people's updates and so on, and finding out about opportunities. There's a fantastic tool on there. If you go to the Bangor University page, you can click on the alumni tab, and it gives you a list of, on the last count, 48,000 people that are linked to Bangor University and on LinkedIn. Okay, and you can filter according to a company name or a type of work or a location, and it can help you to find people who, and you've got something in common with all of them because you've got Bangor University in common. And sometimes just having one thing in common with someone is the prompt that you need just to be able to get in touch, or to say, if you're looking for work experience or thinking about making new connections, in the therapy networks in this new area or something like that. You also want to be researching different options available to you online, so exploring different work settings. Obviously there's a few discussions today about sort of self-employment and private practice, but there are so many different work environments where your skills as counsellors and as therapists will be valued and will be sought after. So really explore all of these different settings. So self-employment, I've mentioned. Look at local employers to you as well. So wherever you are or wherever you're choosing to be or aiming to go, try to map out who are the local employers in that area. Where are the sort of, how big is the local sort of NHS departments or, offering therapy services, or are there local charities? Are there, how many people come up as private practice when you're looking up, sole traders online and so on. So try to map out and work out sort of who's already doing it in that area, and that can help you to identify opportunities as well. And then YouTube as well is a fantastic resource, isn't it, to learn and to learn from others. Really think about maximising learning opportunities, so make the most of any membership that you have to professional bodies. You know, there's often a cost associated with that, but often it's highly valuable. Or, you know, attend conferences or go to webinars, anything you can do to sort of to put yourself out there in that way. And experience, okay? Any experience that you can get is worth it. And obviously, if you're still on the course, you're getting your placement experience, but think about additional things you can do, volunteering or work shadowing. All of these things will help you to secure, you know, if you're going through a competitive process to go for a job, it will really help you to have that range of experiences and showing that you've been proactive, really, in a range of different ways. And never disregard your transferable experiences. So some of your experiences may not be directly related to counselling or to therapy in some way, but there's still value in that. You might be a volunteer for a local charity and you're on the committee, or you might have responsibilities through your child's school, or you might, there's all sorts of different things that you might do, or you might, I don't know, volunteer in animal sanctuary because you just love animals, you know, and not necessarily linked to your therapy, but there's still transferable skills in all sorts of experiences. Moving on then to taking action, okay, so you have to keep up the momentum and actually do things. One thing is identifying and taking a long time on the reflection and identifying options, but you need to move forward with this for your career planning to be effective. So try to make your goals visible, however that works for you, okay, so it might be that you have a desktop on your laptop or your phone wallpaper. You might like to get creative and create, you know, draw something or have little visual prompts with post-it notes, you know, inside a kitchen cupboard or something to say, have you thought about your career today, or whatever works, you know, whatever works for you. This is especially useful when you're in quite an active period of job searching or thinking about your future. So this is especially relevant to those of you who are going to graduate soon. You really need to keep up that momentum. So having those visual prompts can really help you, because even just doing something for 5 minutes can be a hugely effective 5 minutes if it means that you've found, you know, a good lead or something like that. Reflect regularly, okay, so choose a time to regularly review your progress, adjust your goals if necessary. So some of you might do things like journaling or end of month reviews and so on. Try to get into that sort of practice. I only started doing this January just because it so happened the diary I bought had a page for a monthly review, and I was thinking, do you know what, yeah, I'll do this. And I'm actually looking forward to the last sort of night of the month, and I sit in bed and I reflect and, you know, come back to me this time next year to see if I've kept it up. But I've done 4 months so far, and it's actually quite nice knowing that I know at the end of the month I'm going to reflect. And it's not just for work for me, it's for everything in my life, but it's really useful to have that structure instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'll reflect sometimes. Knowing that that is coming at the end of the month is actually, I've personally found that really useful. Some people have sort of accountability buddies as well, so they choose someone who sort of they know that will text them every so often, especially again in an active period of job searching. Hey, how's it going? You know, invite people to ask you and to hold you to account, sort of thing, as long as you know that they'll be kind if you haven't done it. Seek support as well. There's lots of support available. Tell your family and friends that you're doing this. Speak to a careers advisor if you need to. As I said, you know, we as careers advisors in university, we offer 3-year graduate support, and it's not like you have to be unemployed to access it. You can be in a job and you actually want a new job. That's absolutely fine as well. And keep up the momentum. So do something every day if you can, even small actions, so that it keeps you towards that goal. So obviously everything about the frequency of the things I'm talking about here depends on your current sort of work status and your desire to change, you know, how urgent it is that you want to move to the next thing, I guess. Has anyone done anything with SMART goals? Is it something perhaps that you do, perhaps through your practice as well? I highly recommend these for career goals as well, and it's so important that you make them small, okay, and have plenty of them, but make them small so that they're really achievable. So I won't teach you to suck eggs in terms of telling you what exactly a SMART goal is, but I think, you know, you just have to remember that when it comes to a career, try to make sure that it's something that you can practically do within the next, within your specified time frame, and not sort of your longer term ambitions. It's great to identify your longer term ambitions as well, but that's not where the SMART goal comes in. The SMART goal is for all those mini frequent steps that gets you to that sort of, that bigger ambition. It's also really important that you manage your mindset and look after yourself when it comes to, career choices and changes in your life. And I'm highly conscious here that I'm talking to a group of people who are far more qualified than I am to think about your mindset and looking after yourself and so on. But you know the importance of it and how important it can be, and how sometimes when you're really immersed in a specific stage in your life or worried about something, how easy it can be sometimes to stop looking after yourself, or to forget to sort of to check in. Okay, so make sure that you're sort of developing that resilience in your career. A rejection from a job does not mean that you were good enough for that job. It just means they had one vacancy and they had lots of applicants. So often I see students who say to me, "Oh, I've had 2 rejections now. What am I doing wrong?" And it's like, absolutely nothing. Okay, it's good to seek that feedback, but receiving a rejection does not mean that you did anything wrong. You've just been unlucky because someone else was better suited for that post. So you really, and it can be difficult if you're in a period of receiving, more than one. So do remember to really look after yourself. And it's also okay if you change your mind about things, or change your plans, or not have, the same long-term career ambitions as the person sat next to you, or the same, clear goals and so on. You do you, okay? As long as you're taking action and reflecting and knowing where you're at, you'll be okay. And there's actually a really lovely career theory around this, and it's from a guy called Krumboltz, who developed a lot of the learning theories around career guidance, but he also makes reference to something called planned happenstance in a lot of his work. And what it means is sometimes it sort of feels like it rips the carpet under career guidance theory, because it says, hey, you don't have to have a plan. No one has to have a plan. They'll be fine. As long as you maintain these key attributes, these key qualities where you're curious about the world and about opportunities, that you're persistent, that you don't give up, and that you're resilient to that, to the challenges that you're facing, that you're flexible to adapt your needs or to adapt to maybe what's available at that point, and that you're optimistic, the opportunities will find their way to you. So it's sort of, there's actually a theory sort of supporting that approach. So basically it means it doesn't matter if you don't know exactly how your career path is going to go and you don't follow it to the T, but as long as you maintain those really important attributes of curiosity, persistence, flexible and optimism, you will be okay, especially going back to what someone here mentioned about portfolio careers earlier as well. Now more than ever, people's careers are really broad, and it's very easy to transfer your skills and your abilities from, not necessarily from one career to the next, but from different roles. And it's an exciting time for the world of work, I guess, because it's not the same as it was many years ago, where you choose your path and you're stuck on that. Of course, some people will like that. So before we finish, I would like you to think about what you've learned today and things that have prompted you to think. You might want to go back and look at some of the notes, or consider the different sessions. Go back through the programme and think about everything that you've learned and thought about, or food for thought from the day. And I'd like you to just identify some actions, but they have to be things that you're going to do in the next 7 days. Okay, so it's up to you how many you choose. It might just be, I'm going to check out this website that someone mentioned, or I'm going to sit down for half an hour with a cup of tea and I'm going to reflect on my values, something that I don't stop and do very often, or whatever it is. And I'm not going to ask you to do it right now, but it's something that I'd like you on your way home, whether that's, walking home in the car, on the bus, I'd like you to just think about what these actions are. Write them down as well in your diary or in your notebook, in your phone, whatever works for you. And set yourself a reminder for this time next week to check that you've done them, or at least done some of them, so that you can start that process of keeping up the momentum. Because career planning isn't difficult. There's no sort of great sort of complexity to it. You just need to keep doing it often, keep doing a little bit, and you will reap the rewards from that. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that's been useful, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. Okay, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you. Okay.